I decided to hold lunches at my house for my staff. And Henry, I think in the introduction of the book, talks about servant leadership. So the idea was for me to serve my staff a lunch for them to talk about. We call them values lunches. They've been going probably now 6 or 7 years. I get 20 staff who aren't management, who aren't directors. They come round and I cook them lunch. And they can talk about whatever they want. There's no agenda. They can talk about football, whatever. They can talk about work. And it's not compulsory, so they can come and go whenever they want. So I did this, say, about 7 or 8 years ago. And I must admit, it's been absolutely fantastic. It's become a real good talking shop. You can go around to the chairman's house, have lunch, and he can tell them what you really think. My role, which I ask permission of, is just to keep some notes so I can make sure I record what they do and talk about power. The suggestions that would have come up, I needed the power to make sure those things happened within the organisation, which they did. So for me, that part of the power was very good, or very necessary. So I've been doing that for about 5 or 6 years. This next slide shows a picture of some of the staff that turned up for one of the lunches. So it's a whole cross-section of people we have 18 sites across the southeast. So they come from all over, generally one person per site. There's no management or no directors there. And they're waiting for their lunch, as you can see. So what were my observations about this? And I'll talk about my checks on power. One of the things that happened with me, I decided to make myself quite vulnerable in this. I talked about all my difficulties of life, including my divorce. I'm a single parent. I have an alcoholic ex and coping with alcoholism, and my children. So I brought up 4 children of my own. And all that, I think, over time, really lowered the barrier between me and the staff. I was seen as very much a human being who had suffered in various ways, and I think we all suffer in different ways. I think the more we can be open about that, the greater empathy we have with people. And it's interesting, one of the things I note, I don't know what the stats are about divorce, but it's 1 in 3, whatever. So when people go through divorce or single parent issues, I really resonate with myself. I'm a lot more sensitive to those people's issues. So some of the values that are built up around that are, we have a sort of 24-hour counselling service for people, and that's all been driven by, I think, people being much more open at these sort of lunches where all our values are starting to come up. So the values aren't prescriptive, they're all about where people are on their journey in life. So what's great is it all comes up from the staff. A chap called Andy Law, a book called Open Minds, and this quote I think is very important. He says, his reflection is, unless you give up something about yourself and be stripped down, you will never develop or change. The baggage of your past will emerge as the biggest driver in decisions. So making yourself vulnerable, while very challenging, I think has great benefits, because we're all human and we all have issues with our lives. So that for me was a good check on power, and it was a good basis to get values moving up through the company.